Charles Millis Scott Manson, B33 920, and all the rest of them.
Can we just spell your last name, Mr. Manson?
Manson.
Thank you.
When I stand on the mountain and I say, do it, it gets done. If it don't get done, then I'll move on it. And that's the last thing in the world you want me to do. Stole some guns, went to Georgia, burglarized a store, got a straw hat full of dimes, and came to L.A. I turned 21 years old in the L.A. County Jail. I wasn't out but a hot second. I've been in jail all my life.
Charles Miles Manson, often referred to as Helter Skelter. We know him as the man who was the leader of the American cult. This cult has approximately 100 followers, and it was famously known as the Manson Family. Charles Manson has been in prison for 46 years, and he was even given the death penalty. Once when Charles Manson was just 9 years old, he decided to light his school on fire. He was troubled. Things are about to get really crazy, so you know what, sit back, relax, and let's get ready for this one. This is the prison life of Charles Manson. Charles Manson has become one of the most notorious, distinguished, well-known criminals in history. Charles Manson is one of the biggest names in criminal history. The life he lived is absolutely insane, so let's start from the beginning. Charles Miles Manson was born on November 12th, 1934, and he was an American criminal, cult leader, and a singer-songwriter.
My world is a sad world. Often wondered if there's blame.
Is this real life right now? Was that actually Charles Manson? Well, it was. And is it just me, or does Charles Manson have an incredible voice? Instead of being a criminal, he could have went into the life of fame and fortune. Instead, he just got the life of fame and less fortunate imprisonment. Well, the song you heard was titled My World, and he wrote it and recorded it back in 1967. Manson could have signed to a record label and history would have been altered. Also, Manson had connections with Dennis Wilson. Now, who is that? Well, this is a pretty big deal because Dennis Wilson, he ended up creating the Beach Boys. Instead of being called part of the Beach Boys, Manson is now being called Helter Skelter, which is actually a term taken from a Beatles song of that same name. Manson thought the Beatles made the song about him. Also, the Beach Boys did record one of his songs. It was titled Cease to Exist. They changed the name. The name is Never Learn Not to Love, and it was released as a single back in 1968. It was a hit, and there was no credit to Manson. Here's a small sample of the song Cease to Exist by Charles Manson.
Never had a lesson I ever learned, but I know we all get our turn. I love you.
In 1974, Charles Manson stated his religion was Scientology. He often studied this while incarcerated. Charles Manson lived in California, and his cult was responsible for killing 9 people in 4 different locations. This took place between 1969, just 2 years after he sang My World. In 1971, Manson was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder for the deaths of 7 people. All of the members of the cult was apparently ordered by Manson himself to commit these crimes. He was also convicted of first-degree murder for 2 other deaths.
No. I have a question. Are you guilty of any murders? Are you guilty of plotting any murders?
I killed a chicken once.
Any human beings?
No, no.
You're absolutely innocent of any conspiracy to commit murder, or telling anyone to commit murder, or planning it?
Charles Manson is a very intelligent guy who often uses humor to defend himself. Some people say he's intelligent, while others think he's mentally unfit. I'll let you guys decide.
Tell me in a sentence who you are.
Nobody.
Charles Manson has also maintained his innocence. He always pleaded not guilty, and that's really what kept him in prison for a very long time. If he took some sort of plea deal, there might have been a point in his life, or in our lives, where we witnessed Charles Manson as a free person. But instead, he spent 46 years behind bars.
I didn't tie anybody up.
Okay.
I was never on the scene where anyone was killed. I think the law says you can only keep me 17 years or 18 years if I was never on the scene when anyone was killed. I was never on the crime scene, if anything.
So as decades went on, he was always asked the same question. Did you do it?
Have you never felt remorse for the crimes you committed?
What crimes? I told you I haven't committed any crimes.
Do we have an innocent person in prison?
Listen, I broke no law. Try to understand that. I broke no law. I didn't step out of line with God, and I didn't step out of line with the man.
We know there are many people who are in prison for crimes that they have not committed. Is Charles Manson one of them? This is a hugely debated question. During Manson's conviction, he was originally sentenced to death, but his sentence was actually commuted to life in prison with the possibility of parole after California invalidated the state's death penalty statute in 1972. This actually came just 1 year after his conviction. Manson is very lucky that the death penalty takes a very long time to actually carry out. Manson avoided the death penalty, but he wasn't able to get paroled from prison. He spent almost 5 decades behind bars.
Look at the madness that goes on. You can't prove anything that happened yesterday. Now is the only thing that's real.
Manson's criminal career actually started at a very young age. Like I said, he torched his own school. So when Manson was just 17 years old back in 1951, he committed another crime. He was sent away to jail. While he was deemed insane and on a psychiatric recommendation, he was transferred to Natural Bridge Honor Camp, which is a minimum security institution. Manson was able to go home to his aunt's house so she can help him out, maybe help him find work, but soon after, Manson was caught raping a boy at knife point. He was put in jail once again. During this time, he committed a further 8 serious disciplinary offenses, 3 involving homosexual acts. Because of these behaviors, he was transferred into a maximum security reformity located in Ohio. He was expected to remain in prison and released on his 21st birthday, which was in November of 1955. Good behavior for Manson during this time actually led him to an early release. Staying out of prison didn't last long at all. 1959, Manson pleaded guilty to a charge of attempting to cash a forged US Treasury check, which he claimed to have stolen from a mailbox. That charge was actually dropped, but then he received a 10-year suspended sentence and probation for another crime. What was this one for? Well, he forced a 16-year-old girl to prostitute. He was like her pimp. By 1967, at the age of 33 years old, Manson spent more than half of his life in prison and other institutions. Aged 34 years old, Manson dedicated his time to create this cult, well, his cult.
When they were, a small bizarre character named Charles Manson was charged with provoking his apparently fanatic followers to commit the crimes, and a national obsession to understand these people began. Who was Charles Manson? On August 8, 1969, unknown intruders broke into the fashionable Los Angeles home of movie director Roman Polanski and his pregnant wife, actress Sharon Tate. There they slaughtered her and 4 others.
It was at McNeil Island Penitentiary that Manson developed a skill at the guitar and an interest in music that would play an important part in later events. The man who taught him the steel guitar was an aging fellow prisoner, the renowned Depression-era gangster Alvin "Creepy" Karpus.
Charles Manson may not have killed anyone with his bare hands, but it is believed he told people to kill, and those actions were carried out. The Manson family was responsible for many crimes, like assaults, thefts, and there were even reports of an attempted assassination of the President of the United States at the time, President Gerald Ford.
40 years ago today, Sarah Jane Moore aimed a gun at President Gerald Ford in San Francisco and fired a single bullet. The bullet missed Ford by inches. That attempt came just 17 days after another woman, a Charles Manson follower, tried to assassinate Ford.
So the first attempt on the president's life was a member of the Manson family, and the second attempt of the president's life was from another woman named Sarah Jane Moore, who was in prison for 32 years. Well, she's out now, and she's become famous.
Like that, but you tried to kill the president of the United States back then.
Yes, but it makes it sound like I was a totally different person, and I was pretty much the person I am now. Had gotten into something over my head, I will admit that.
Charles Manson started to become a household name in the 80s. He gave 4 interviews to mainstream media. The first one was recorded at California Medical Facility, and it aired in 1981. It appeared on The Tomorrow Show by Tom Snyder on NBC.
And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
You know nothing about something called Helter Skelter. You know nothing about...
Yeah, I know about Helter Skelter. It was a song that some people sang.
And that's all it was.
And some other kids picked it up in their minds. And I've been in jail all my life, so I'm actually right here at home. How long have I been in jail? 34 years? 34 years, so...
Out of 47, you've been here 34.
I've been in jail, prison, a long time. All my life. I was raised up in here.
Charles Manson is very influential, and something about him allows himself to get people to do whatever he wants to do.
This morning, investigators are trying to figure out if crazed cult leader Charles Manson has a new flock of disciples. Over the weekend, Manson follower 63-year-old Craig Hammond was arrested for allegedly trying to sneak a wristwatch cell phone to the notorious killer locked behind bars.
Manson doesn't know life outside of prison. He even once said that it's a good idea for him to stay in prison because what he has done in the past, he's willing to do it again, and he would do it much better this time. In 1984, an inmate, Jan Holstrom, poured paint thinner on Manson and set his body on fire. So Manson actually has burns all over his body. It covers about 20% of his body, which is quite significant. Because of this, Manson was often kept in isolation, and he was moved around to different prison facilities and jails. In 1989, he was housed at San Quentin State Prison. This prison is known for its toughness.
Do you believe that there should be a death penalty?
A death penalty?
Yes, for someone who commits a murder or something like that.
Aren't we all born to die? We're born with a death penalty.
In a gas chamber?
In a gas chamber. Well,
or by hanging, or by an electric chair.
I see what you're searching for.
Should there be a supreme penalty for committing a crime?
What do you think?
I'm the one who's asking you.
Charles Manson was often clever with his responses. Oftentimes, he would just ask the question back. So that was an interview at San Quentin Prison. Even in prison, it seemed like he still had connections to the outside world and had followers inside of the prison as well. In 2009, Manson was caught with a cell phone, and he had contacted people in California, New Jersey, Florida, and British Columbia. So he might have actually had ties in Canada. Later in life, Manson decided to have a Nazi swastika on his forehead. And of course, this became very controversial. Okay, so Manson's prison life story, it sort of came to an end. He has been denied parole many times. He was given 12 parole hearings, and at the 12th one, I guess he realized he's just not going to be released from prison, so he skipped that one, he didn't go to it. The panel at his hearing always noted that Manson had a history of controlling behavior and mental health issues, including schizophrenia and paranoid delusional disorder, which posed a greater danger to himself and to the society. So they just couldn't release him. On November 19, 2017, just a few years back, when he was just 83 years old, that's when he passed away. The beginning of 2017, so in January, he was suffering from gastrointestinal bleeding at California State Prison. He was rushed to Mercy Hospital. Well, they didn't have Mercy at this hospital because Manson needed surgery, but doctors considered him too weak for surgery, so they just returned returned him back to prison. Whatever treatment he had received at the hospital was not disclosed. So maybe he didn't receive anything at all, and I'm sure there are many conspiracy theories out there saying that the doctors, they could have done something, they just didn't want to do something. They didn't want to help this man. I doubt that's what happened. Well, on November, Manson had a heart attack and he passed away. He might have died, but his legacy, his life story, his cultural impact will always live on. Manson left everything to his son, Matthew Roberts. It must be so crazy knowing that your father is Charles Manson.
But I can assure them I have no desire for that money whatsoever. I have my own money. My situation is fine. And I don't want the negativity and the energy that goes along with that money, to be honest with you. So yeah, I've been accused of a variety of things.
So I tried to absolutely confirm it that that is the son of Charles Manson, and I'm pretty sure he is. I'm not 100% sure if DNA tests were taken, but that's how this story goes. Thank you guys so much for watching The Prison Life of Charles Manson. I'll see you guys all in the next video.